Urban legends, a contemporary form of folklore you may have in your city, whether it be the man with a hook hand at Lover's Lane or the hitchhiker that turns out to be a ghost. Grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 4 stories where people experience and even try to solve these urban legends. Urban legend or prank. Warning, you may want to read this in the morning, but whatever, it's up to you, because this may be supernatural or maybe not. Have you guys heard the urban legend, the babysitter? Well, after reading that starting sentence, you're all going to be, oh, this story is such bullshit. Well, believe what you believe, because this event has affected both me and my cousin. My hands shake when I write this. It started Saturday, July 6, 2008. Instead of babysitting, we were house-sitting my grandma's house because everyone went off to Timorous party. It's so boring. It's fun when you're a kid because you get to run around, but when you're older, yeah, it's not that fun. Anyways, we didn't mind doing that. Besides, my grandma and uncle, auntie, and baby cousin would be home by 10 p.m. because obviously my grandma doesn't like to stay out late. Also, they had Foxtail, to you Americans, cable TV, which was great because we were watching a variety of shows to keep us entertained. It was around 7 p.m. when the phone rang. I went to go pick it up. No answer. Saying out loud, "Damn prankers!" "Who was that?" my cousin asked. "No one," I replied. So I decided to go make dinner. Instant noodles. While eating dinner, the phone rang. As I placed my plate down on the table and walked towards the phone, it stopped ringing. I sighed and went back to eating my dinner and watching TV. It was around 8 p.m. We started getting bored. "You should have brought your Wii," my cousin said. "You should have brought your 360, I said back with sarcasm. After sitting on the couch with nothing to watch for like 30 minutes, finally something good comes on. So sitting there talking and watching TV, the phone rings again. As I got up, I stated, "I swear to God, if it's another prank, I'm gonna frickin' track down the number." I pick up the phone. "Hello?" No answer. Then breathing. "Oh my God," I said in frustration. "What?" my cousin asked. So I started making sex noises, to prank back the pranker, I guess. And they hung up. As I was about to sit down, the phone rang again. My cousin started laughing. I picked up the phone. Hysterical laughter was on the other line, so I laughed back out with the Krusty the Clown laugh. After a few seconds, I remembered about the urban legend. I hung up the phone and walked over to my cousin. "I think there's someone in the house." "What?" my cousin said with laughter in his reply. "Just play along with me," I said in a serious tone, and "You're serious, aren't you?" replied a very worried cousin. "Ah, damn, I got no more smokes. I'm gonna go drive to the shops. I'll be back later, or do you want to come too?" I said, sort of loudly. I don't smoke, by the way. "Yeah, nah, I'll come too. I want to go buy some Starbucks," said my cousin, who was just eager to get out of the damn house. As we went out and locked the door, we heard a thump from inside. We both quickly ran to my car. I sort of had trouble putting the keys in the ignition due to fear. I finally got it in, turned on the car, and floored it. As we were at the shops, my cousin asked me if we should call the cops and call our uncle. I replied saying that it may just be our imagination, and that we should just go back but not go inside the house. So we drove back to the house. Did you turn on the lights upstairs?" I said with my heart pounding really fast, like it was about to burst. "No." "But doesn't Den, my 4-year-old cousin's name, have a auto nightlight?" my cousin replied back, but I could tell he was freaking out as much as I was. "Oh yeah," I said as I unlocked the car. "Wait," my cousin shouted. "Start the damn car and get out of here." Without questioning, I started the car again and headed to my cousin's house. While driving there, I asked him what he saw. He said he saw a person's figure going past the window. When I heard that, it sent chills down my spine. I have never been so afraid. So I stopped the car and I decided to call the operator. I asked if any outgoing calls had been made from the phone. She said no. So I asked, has any incoming calls been made to my grandma's phone number? She asked for a time frame. I said, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. She said, no calls have been made to the requested number. I said, are you sure? Because I've had a series of prank calls. She apologized and said no again, and repeated the number I told her. I said thanks and hung up. It was around 10:10 p.m., and I realized that my grandma was going to be home soon. I got a call from my mom. Your grandma's gonna be home at 11, so you and Kenneth, my cousin's name, can go to his house if you want. Mom, I think there's someone in grandma's house. What? Don't ask, but someone keeps pranking us and we left the house and locked the door. Me and Kenneth both heard a thump and we ran to the car. Don't be stupid. How can anyone get in the house? I don't know. I hear my mom talking to my uncle about what I just told her. Hello? My uncle said. I told him what I told my mom. Call the police. We'll be home real soon. But I'm not in the house. Where are you? Outside of Ken's house. We'll stay there and after 30 minutes, drive to Grandma's house. So not waiting 15 minutes, I drove to my grandma's house, but I didn't park in front of her house. I parked at the second house in front of her house. Anyways, the night light was still on, and I saw what my cousin saw before. At that point, I was about to cry. I think whatever it was would just jump next to my car. You get the point. I called the police and they said they'll be there within 30 to 40 minutes and to keep calm and keep a good distance from the house. So waiting in the car for what seemed like hours, my uncle arrived. I beeped at him. He stopped his car in front of mine. We got out and I was so relieved. We talked and I told him that I called the operator and she said that there was no incoming calls and that I saw a person's figure go across Den's window. The cops finally arrived, like 5 of them. One was outside talking with me and my cousin, and the other 4 went inside the house. After waiting, they all came out. Did any of you leave the window open? Asked one of the cops. Everyone said no, and my uncle said which room had the window opened. The cop described the room and it was my aunt's room, so my uncle called his little sister, asking if she had left her window open. She hung up and said that she doesn't know. The cops said that they can't do anything about it and that it could have just been a prank. But if anything out of the ordinary happens, then immediately call the police. As they were about to go, I told them to wait. I told them about the call I made to the operator, and they said it's impossible for a call not to show up. I said, well, I've been getting prank calls and that when I called they said that no incoming calls have been made to my grandma's house. The cop looked worried and suspicious and decided to call the phone company. They said exactly the same thing, and they decided to do a second search around my grandma's house, backyard, everywhere. They came out with a piece of eaten bun, and I thought to myself, wow, searching must be hard work, right? They asked if I dropped this under the table. I said that we didn't even eat that, we had noodles. Everyone looked worried and I was scared. The cops decided to put my grandma's house under constant surveillance. After a few days, nothing had happened. So, what was it? A sick prank? Something supernatural? Or some sick psycho decided to reenact an urban legend? I might think it was supernatural, since if it wasn't supernatural, there would be a trace of the incoming calls, right? God, after this, I've not been able to stay home alone. My adventure at Gravity Hill. There's a place in Antioch, California, called Gravity Hill. There's an old slaughterhouse and an abandoned insane asylum going up a pathway to the hill. It is said that someone had escaped from the asylum and went on a massive killing spree. One time, there was a school bus filled with kids coming home from a field trip, and each and every one of those kids in the bus were killed by the psychotic escapee. Now, if you go up to Gravity Hill and pack your car in neutral at the bottom of it, they say that the spirits of the children who were brutally murdered in the bus will push up your car up the hill so you don't suffer the same fate they did. There is also another version of the story saying that there was a school bus of kids coming back from a school field trip, but the bus skidded into a wash and all the kids drowned. Hearing the legend piqued my curiosity in this place. I wanted to know more about it. I remember my brother saying he had been once there before. He told me that when he had gone to Gravity Hill, the car really did go up on its own. He also mentioned seeing a large cloud of black smoke clouding a back window and a strange glowing ball of light hovering above them in front. I asked him if he was lying to me, and he swore that it was all true. I believed him. After hearing my brother's story, I wanted to go see Gravity Hill for myself. I felt that I would not be able to rest until I have visited there. So, during my freshman year of high school on Halloween night, my brother, his girlfriend, my friend Susie, and I made a trip there. My brother told us about the story of the slaughterhouse and the insane asylum as we passed them to get a rise out of me and Susie. Finally, we made it to the base of the hill. I was so excited yet scared. My brother put the car in neutral and picked up his feet and put them on top of the dashboard so that Susie and I knew that he wasn't playing around. To my surprise, the car started to move uphill. The disappointing thing, though, was that I did not see any of the things my brother did when he made the trip. In fact, I didn't see anything. My brother said it might have been that way because it was Halloween night, and when spiritual energy is at its lowest. A few years have passed since then, but I still want to visit Gravity Hill again sometime. I want to see the things my brother did for myself. If anyone has ever been to Gravity Hill, please share your experiences with me. Black Bridge. My in-laws reside close to Black Bridge in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. It's located close to the Stora Enso paper mill in town. This happened about a year ago on a bright, sunny July afternoon. It was too hot to stay indoors, and I was getting really antsy. I didn't want to stay home because the weather was too beautiful to waste indoors. My husband was working on building a greenhouse for my mother-in-law, so I dragged his younger sisters, ages 12 and 15, with me on a walk. His younger sisters were telling ghost stories as we head over to Black Bridge. One of the girls said Black Bridge was haunted and that people have seen a dark figure walk around the area. I laughed at their story, saying that it was just an urban legend, and brushed it off my shoulders. When we approached Black Bridge, there was a gate that held back people from slipping into the river. We stood on a ledge overlooking the river and the other side of town. On the river, we can see people on their boats and fishing. The girls started talking about the stories they've heard about Black Bridge. I laughed at the nonsense. I leaned over the ledge to look below, and I saw open shells of crayfish on rocks. I thought who would be crazy enough to go down there and catch crayfishes. Again, I brushed it off as if nothing and continued enjoying the scenery. All of a sudden, I heard a splashing sound coming from the waters. I looked down and saw pebbles dropping into the water. I leaned closer to look below the ledge at the bottom of the river to see who was throwing those pebbles, but I could not locate anyone. The girls also heard this and tried to see where the pebbles were coming from. I thought this was a mean joke some local kids were playing with us because we were talking about ghost stories, so I told them to ignore it, and we continued talking. We heard the noises again. This time, more rocks were thrown into the water, and the splashes were louder. To our surprise, When we looked down to the riverbank to see who was doing it, we didn't see anyone throwing those rocks, but rocks were literally flying off the ground into the river. It was as if an invisible person was throwing rocks from the side of the river into the water. I realized that this was not a human local kid joke, but something from the other side. We screamed and ran all the way back to my parents-in-law's, just when I thought nothing could happen on a beautiful, bright, sunny day. Anything, anywhere is possible. Crybaby Bridge in Mississippi. I know, the title makes it sound like it's made up, but this is a true story about a crybaby bridge in Dennis, Mississippi. When I was 18 years old, some friends and I were talking about this crybaby bridge. That if you went over to it, you could hear a baby crying. My friends who were in their 30s and I, being curious, we wanted to go check it out. So the next day, me and my friends, their 5-year-old and 2-year-old, and another friend's kid, a 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, decided to go. When we got to the bridge, you had to get out and climb up on it because they took the road out that went all the way to it. We all climbed up on it. It had old rusty rails, and the bridge was concrete. Also had a sign hanging on it, but I can't remember what it said. Anyways, back to the story. When we were up on the bridge, we felt a chill running through us, and it was the middle of summer. We were there for about an hour and nothing was happening, so we decided to leave. As we were turning around to leave, my friend's 5-year-old said he heard a baby crying. I went to the end of the bridge, where my friend and her husband were. I asked them if Ethan, their little boy, ever heard the story about the bridge, and they both said no. So I told them what Ethan had just told me, and they asked him. He told them the same thing that he told me. He told them that he heard a baby crying, and his dad told him no, he didn't, because there was no baby around at all. Ethan started crying and said, "Daddy, I do hear a baby crying, and it's down there on that rock." He pointed to the rock, and it is where it said the baby was supposed to have landed. So after he told us all, we got into the vehicle and left, and we never did go back there. What I still wonder about all this time is that could he have seen that baby down there on that rock? Could he have heard the baby crying? I know kids can hear and see things that we can't. Ethan's mom and dad told me that later that day, that they never even talked about the bridge around Ethan, his sister, or the other kids. And the first time Ethan had seen that bridge was on the day that we went. It is said that the woman who threw her baby over the rail did it because she had the baby and she wasn't married, and it was against her family's beliefs. And the baby landed on the rock that Ethan had pointed to. Ethan, the next day, to see if his story had changed, that would give us any sign that he was being funny or anything, and he told us the exact same thing he told us the day before. I know this didn't happen to me, but I was there and I heard Ethan, and I saw him point to the rock. I even asked Ethan myself if he had ever heard the story about the bridge, and he said no. So, you can choose to believe this or not, but everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and I respect that. Thanks for reading.